You don't need money to think like a billionaire, but you do need to stop thinking small. The real difference was never in the bank account, but in the kind of decision-making you train your mind to see. While most people focus on earning more, very few realize that the real game happens before that, in how you think about time, risk, ego, and scale. That's where almost everyone gets it wrong, without even noticing. Billionaires don't wait until they have power to act differently. They build the mindset, the structure, and the logic before the money shows up. That's why, when opportunity comes, they're ready, and those who aren't get left behind. In today's video, you'll understand the mental patterns that create extreme wealth long before the first million. Stick around until the end, because one of these ideas will completely change how you make decisions, and after that, it's impossible to go back to playing the regular game. 1. Billionaires don't think about money. They think about leverage. Most people wake up thinking about income, salary, or getting paid at the end of the month. Billionaires wake up thinking about multiplying force. It's not about how much comes in today, it's about what keeps coming in tomorrow without needing constant presence. Think about it. Money is linear, leverage is exponential. One depends on hours traded, the other depends on scalable systems. That's why two equally smart professionals end up in completely different financial realities. One sells time, the other builds something that works while they sleep. Take a close look at the contrast. Most people ask, how much does this pay per hour? Billionaires ask, how many times can this scale? Properly invested capital, well-written code, media that spreads ideas, the right people in the right roles, these are real multipliers. They don't require daily heroics. They require structural thinking. While many chase higher income, few build repeatable mechanisms. And extreme wealth doesn't come from repeated effort. It comes from the right decisions made way too early to look obvious. There's science behind this. It's not just opinion. A study by Hendrik de Sembinder in 2018 analyzed around 26,000 stocks in the US market over several decades. The method was simple and brutally clear. Measure who really created long-term value. The uncomfortable result? Only about 4% of those stocks explained virtually all of the net wealth creation. That's pure asymmetric return. A handful of events, a few assets, a few non-linear moves created almost all the money. Now connect that to your life. If extreme wealth comes from non-linear payoffs, relying only on predictable gains means you're playing the wrong game. Excessive safety usually kills asymmetry. Billionaires understand they don't need to get everything right, they just need to get a few big things right. That's why they tolerate small mistakes in exchange for bets with huge upside. Most people want emotional stability. They want optionality. And that completely changes the kind of decisions they're willing to make. Here's a practical tool that almost no one uses, a personal leverage checklist. First, time. Does this keep generating value without you being present? Second, decision. Does one choice unlock multiple outcomes or just solve a small problem? Third, distribution. Can this reach 1,000, 100,000, or 1,000,000 people without proportional cost? If the answer is no to all three, it's probably just another job in disguise. See the pattern now? Billionaires don't hate money, they just don't put it at the center of their thinking. Money is a result, not a starting point. They train their minds to see structures that amplify impact. While most ask, how much does this pay? Few are brave enough to ask, does this scale? That one simple question separates survival from real prosperity. And once you start thinking like that, it becomes impossible to go back to playing small. 2. Long-term thinking as a competitive advantage. Most people are trapped in the short term without even realizing it. The market screams for quarterly results, immediate goals, fast outcomes. Billionaires are tuned into a different frequency. They think in decades. While most adjust decisions to look good now, they're willing to look wrong today so they can be right tomorrow. That quiet difference creates an advantage that won't show up on weekly charts, but dominates any game over time. Pay attention to the contrast. Regular companies optimize for the next report. Billionaires make decisions that only make sense when you stretch the timeline. They accept slower growth early on if it means structural dominance later. Interestingly, long-term thinking isn't passive patience, it's strategic aggression with emotional calm. Those who think long-term are playing a game where most people quit way too early. This isn't just motivational talk, it's backed by data. A 2017 study by the McKinsey Global Institute analyzed 615 global companies over several years. The method compared organizations focused on quarterly results with those driven by long-term vision. The companies with a long-term horizon showed higher revenue growth, better ROC, and more resilience in crises. The market rewards those who can wait with logic, not blind hope. Now bring that down to the personal level. Long-term thinking completely changes how you choose careers, partners, investments, even where you spend your energy. Most people want quick returns to ease their anxiety. Billionaires use time as a psychological ally. They know that a few right decisions, held over years, beat thousands of impulsive moves. Time well used becomes an invisible but devastatingly powerful asset. There's a simple technique to train this mental muscle, the 10-10-10 rule. Before deciding, ask yourself, will this still seem like a good decision in 10 days? In 10 months? In 10 years? This question eliminates impulses disguised as opportunities. What only makes sense now usually comes at a high cost later. What survives all 3 time frames usually builds something solid. See the real game? Long-term thinking isn't about waiting, it's about choosing better. It's about turning time into a competitive advantage while others burn out running in circles. Very few people have the emotional discipline for this, and that's exactly why it works. Once you start thinking this way, fake urgency loses power. Clarity takes its place. And decisions stop being reactions. They become conscious moves toward building something real. 3. Separating ego from decision-making before you have power. There's a silent mistake that destroys decisions even before money or power is involved, confusing identity with opinion. When ego enters the room, logic walks out the door. Billionaires train for this early because they understand one simple thing: the greater the power, the more expensive the mistakes. Those who don't learn to detach from their own ideas end up defending bad decisions just to protect their image. Most people react like this. If someone questions their idea, it feels like a personal attack. Billionaires do the opposite. They attack their own ideas first, not because they're insecure, but because they understand that opinions are not identity. They can say, "I was wrong," without feeling like it diminishes their personal value. This self-control creates a massive advantage in high-pressure environments, where vanity can cost millions. Psychology explains this clearly. Studies conducted by the Stanford Graduate School of Business in 2019 analyzed what's known as motivated reasoning, using behavioral experiments and strategic decision-making analysis. The researchers found that confirmation bias drastically lowers the quality of decisions when leaders are emotionally attached to their beliefs. The more ego is involved, the fewer facts are actually considered. Now, do you see the danger? Even before money, status, or a team come into play, many people already make decisions to look right, not be right. That creates a mental pattern that's hard to break later. Billionaires know that power amplifies flaws. That's why they train cognitive detachment early. They'd rather lose an argument today than lose a fortune tomorrow. It's a simple trade-off, but few are willing to make it. There's a practical tool for this that almost no one uses with real discipline: the devil's advocate rule. Before any major decision, write out the opposing argument. Seriously. It's not a mental game. It's a formal exercise. It forces you to see the risks, weaknesses, and scenarios your ego tries to hide. Many bad decisions die on that piece of paper before they turn into real losses. In the end, separating ego from decision-making is strategic maturity. It's not emotional coldness, it's respect for reality. People who don't need to win arguments go on to win much bigger gains. When you learn not to identify with your ideas, you gain something rare: clarity under pressure. And clarity at that level is an asset that money only multiplies. 4. Obsessive focus on expensive problems. Most people look for creative ideas. Billionaires look for expensive problems. There's a massive difference here that almost no one notices. Ideas sound good in conversation. Big problems move entire markets. Extreme wealth is created when you solve something that hurts millions of people financially at the same time. Creativity without real pain rarely creates fortune. It just creates temporary applause. Watch the pattern closely. Most people try to invent something new before they understand what's already broken. Billionaires do the opposite. They observe where there's friction, inefficiency, delays, waste, or systemic risk. They don't ask, what can I create? They ask, what is too expensive to stay the way it is? When you solve a small problem, you get small money. When you solve a structural problem, the market pays you at scale. You can see this play out across every major industry. Technology solves time and information bottlenecks. Logistics solves delays and physical waste. Energy solves cost and instability. Finance solves risk, liquidity, and access. In all of these fields, the biggest winners didn't start with genius ideas. They started with a cold obsession over problems too big to ignore. The money came later, as an inevitable consequence. There's also a psychological factor here. Solving big problems requires tolerating complexity and frustration longer than most people can handle. Most give up early because they don't see fast validation. Billionaires know that expensive problems rarely have simple solutions. They accept prolonged tension because they understand that the size of the reward usually matches the size of the pain you're solving. Here's a practical exercise that will change how you spot opportunities. List 10 points of friction that are currently costing the US market billions. Don't think about solutions yet. Just observe where there are delays, wasted time, excessive costs, repeated errors, bureaucracy, bad experiences, or poorly managed risks. Train your eye to spot real economic pain, not just pretty ideas. When you shift your focus from creativity to cost, something interesting happens. The world starts looking full of obvious opportunities that were previously invisible. Billionaires aren't necessarily smarter, they're just more tuned in to what hurts at scale. Solving big problems is uncomfortable, confusing, and slow. But that's exactly why most people never try. And wherever few people go, returns are usually disproportionate. 5. Think in systems, not in goals. Most people live obsessed with goals, income goals, job title goals, status goals. Billionaires think differently. They know that goals motivate, but systems build wealth. A goal is a fixed point. A system is something that keeps running even when your motivation fluctuates. People who live only for goals win once. People who build systems win repeatedly. Look at the contrast clearly. Most people say, I want to make X per year. Billionaires say, I want a system that generates value continuously. The problem with goals is that they rely on constant willpower. Systems rely on structure. When you reach a goal, the brain relaxes. When you build a system, the process keeps producing results without needing daily excitement. Behavioral science backs this up. A 2020 report from the American Psychological Association reviewed studies on habits and self-regulation using longitudinal data and behavioral experiments. The findings showed that people who operate with systems drastically reduce their dependence on conscious self-control. Their behavior becomes driven by environment, routines, and triggers, not by constant mental effort. Billionaires understand this early on. They don't rely on discipline as their only engine. They create systems that force them to make better decisions even on bad days. A schedule that protects strategic time. Clear criteria for saying no. Processes that filter out bad opportunities before they even seem tempting. The system thinks when the mind is tired. Now here's the practical tool. Build a rich decision system. First, inputs. What kind of information do you consume daily? Second, filters. What criteria help you quickly eliminate poor decisions? Third, metrics. What actually shows progress, not vanity? Without this, you're just reacting to the world. With it, you're calmly choosing your path. In the end, thinking in systems changes your entire relationship with success. You stop chasing emotional highs and start building consistency. Goals are fragile because they depend on emotional states. Systems are powerful because they work even when you're not inspired. Billionaires don't win because they want more. They win because they structure better. And in the long run, structure always beats willpower. 6. A cold, mathematical relationship with risk. Most people believe billionaires are risk-averse. That's false. They're averse to poorly calculated risk. There's a huge difference between strategic courage and emotional recklessness. Billionaires don't run from risk. They break it down into parts small enough to control. Where most people see danger, they see structure, probability, and asymmetry. The contrast is clear. Most people ask, what if it goes wrong? Billionaires ask, how much can I lose in the worst case, and how much can I make if it works? They don't make decisions based on fear or excitement, but on simple math. If the downside is limited and the upside is disproportionate, risk stops being the enemy and becomes a tool. This mindset completely changes the game. Data backs this up. A 2014 study by Harvard Business School analyzed patterns in entrepreneurship and risk-taking using case studies and long-term tracking of founders. The research showed that high-performing entrepreneurs tend to concentrate resources early on, but always with clear downside protection, and diversify later as their system matures. This explains a common mistake. Average people diversify too early out of fear, diluting their impact. Billionaires concentrate intelligently in the beginning and diversify later for preservation. Risk isn't avoided. It's temporarily embraced when the asymmetry is favorable. Trying to eliminate all risk also eliminates the chance for extraordinary returns. Now here's the practical framework that silently governs many elite decisions. Limited downside, asymmetric upside. Before acting, define exactly how much you can lose without compromising your stability. Then, evaluate if the potential gain is multiple times greater than that loss. If not, walk away, no emotional attachment. Simple, cold, and extremely effective. In the end, billionaires' relationship with risk seems almost boring in how rational it is. There's no adrenaline, no drama, just logic applied over and over. They don't chase absolute safety or temporary thrills. They look for games where losing a little and winning a lot is structurally possible. Once you learn to think this way, risk stops being scary. It starts becoming manageable. 7. Fast decision-making with few variables. Most people believe good decisions require long analysis, endless spreadsheets, and more information than necessary. Billionaires see it the other way around. Slow decision-making is an invisible cost that almost no one accounts for. While someone is overanalyzing, the opportunity shifts, the context changes, and the advantage disappears. Speed with clarity beats insecure perfectionism. The contrast is simple and uncomfortable. Most people try to reduce uncertainty before acting. Billionaires accept uncertainty and reduce variables. They don't need absolute certainty. They need sufficient clarity. Complex environments punish those who try to control everything. The more factors you try to consider, the more you freeze. Fast decision-making isn't recklessness, it's trained cognitive efficiency. Science explains this precisely. Daniel Kahneman, in his book Thinking, Fast and Slow, summarized decades of research in behavioral psychology and economics. Through controlled experiments and analysis of heuristics, he showed that overanalysis in complex environments actually reduces performance. The brain gets lost trying to optimize everything at once. Well-chosen simplicity leads to better decisions. Billionaires use conscious heuristics. They know they're not looking for the perfect decision, just a good enough one made early. Fixing quickly is usually cheaper than waiting too long. Most people try to avoid mistakes. The elite tries to avoid slowness. Making a small mistake and adjusting early almost always costs less than being right too late. Here's a powerful practical rule, the 3 essential variables rule. Before deciding, identify only 3 factors that truly move the result. If more than 3 seem important, you haven't understood the problem yet. This limitation forces clarity, eliminates noise, and speeds up action. The rest is just detail disguised as importance. Once you learn to decide like this, something changes inside. Anxiety decreases because the process is clear. Confidence increases because you're acting with logic, not impulse. Billionaires don't seem smarter, just less confused. They've decided that speed with clarity beats fake depth. And in the real world, those who decide better and faster usually take the whole game. 8. Build reputation before you build wealth. Most people want money before they've built a name. Billionaires go the opposite way. They understand that financial capital follows social capital. Reputation is a silent asset that opens doors money alone can't buy. Before there's wealth, there's trust. And well-positioned trust accelerates high-return opportunities long before the money shows up. Look at the contrast carefully. Most people try to prove their value by showing financial results. Billionaires build credibility by delivering value before charging anything. They become known for a subject, reliable in execution, consistent in character. When the money comes, it just amplifies something that was already solid. Without reputation, wealth creates resistance. With reputation, it creates attraction. The data proves this clearly. A 2018 study by MIT Sloan School of Management analyzed professional networks and financial performance using social network analysis and economic results. The research found that individuals with high reputation gain early access to better risk-return opportunities. It's not luck, it's strategic social positioning. Billionaires understand that truly big opportunities are rarely open to the public. They circulate in circles of trust. Invitations, partnerships, insider information, and private deals flow first to those who have already demonstrated competence and integrity. Those who only think about money arrive too late. Those who build reputation get there first and choose better. There's a practical strategy for this called pre-earned credibility. First, content. Consistently share useful ideas. Second, deliverables. Exceed expectations, even when no one's watching. Third, public signals. Associate your name with clear results, even small ones in the beginning. These signals create a mental image that precedes you into any room. In the end, wealth is an accelerated consequence of a well-built reputation. Money can buy attention for a short time. Reputation earns trust for a long time. Billionaires know that when trust comes first, money faces less friction to grow. And in big games, low friction is worth more than high capital. 9. Creator mindset, not consumer mindset. Most people live as professional consumers without realizing it. They consume content, opinions, products, distractions, and pre-made narratives. Billionaires operate in a completely different mental mode. They consume little and produce a lot, not because they're ascetic, but because they understand that constant consumption trains passivity. Consistent production trains power. Creators shape the game, consumers react to it. The contrast is direct. Most people start the day asking, what will I watch, read, or buy? Billionaires start by asking, what will I build, solve, or improve today? That one mental shift changes everything. Producing requires effort, clarity, and responsibility. Consuming requires only attention. Over time, this difference creates completely opposite identities, even among equally smart people. There's a recurring narrative pattern among great wealth creators. The early years are marked by disproportionate output, little recognition, little immediate return, lots of production. Code, writing, systems, processes, relationships, companies. While others relax after work, they enter their second creative shift. Not out of blind obsession, but with a clear vision of accumulating advantage. There's a deep psychological point here. Producing puts you in a state of agency. Consuming reinforces external dependence for stimulation. The more you create, the more confident you become in your ability to generate value from scratch. Billionaires trust less in trends and more in their own ability to build something useful. That confidence changes how they deal with risk, time, and opportunity. Here's a brutally honest and simple step. A weekly audit of creation versus consumption. Take 7 days and observe. How many hours did you spend creating something that didn't exist before? And how many hours did you just absorb information, entertainment, or opinions? Don't judge, just measure. The number almost always explains why certain results haven't shown up yet. In the end, a creator mindset isn't about producing for the sake of it. It's about taking responsibility for your own future. Billionaires don't wait for permission, trends, or constant validation. They build first and adjust later. When you shift that internal axis, the world stops being something that happens to you. It becomes something that responds to what you create.